Malaika Simmons, thank you so much for joining me today. Good morning.
Good morning.
I am so excited you're here. We only recently have met. We were put in touch by a shared connection, shared colleague. And I was so thrilled because when we had a chance to speak, immediately I just thought, I hadn't said this to you. Malaika is someone who sees me and I see her. We only had one conversation, but immediately when we met, I was like, I really understand where you're coming from. So thank you.
Mutual Admiration Society. When you have conversations and it doesn't feel like I forgot that we didn't already know each other. So that's a telltale sign that things are going pretty well. You're just like, oh, girl, I see. Oh, wait, no, I don't. Wait.
I wanted to ask you, we're going to talk about a lot today. The bulk of what I was so excited to speak with you about today is your Momentology Method. The Momentology Method is a framework you've created for intentional living, being present, being mindful. If listeners take one thing away from our conversation today, what do you hope they'll take away if it's just one magical nugget?
Possibility. It's really about how you are possible. It's not it's possible. It's not the things, it's not the external. So often we're tied to external validation, external accomplishment as a bellwether for whether or not we have worth. And what I hope people get from Momentology Method is that you already have what you're looking for. The possibilities are literally endless. And I may once or twice geek out because I am a Marvel head and I absolutely love everything Spider-Verse and the multiverse and all of that. But there are so many possibilities in this life. If you can understand that whatever you're doing now is not the last thing, it's not fatal, right? And you'll find another road or another path, then that's the most important thing.
Thank you. I'm also a fan of Spider-Man and the multiverse. And there's a lot of fear in the world right now and feelings of scarcity. I'd really love to talk about the possibility. Let's talk about you and your background. Can you tell me your story?
I've thought about this often because I have such an eclectic background, because I have boundless interests. I found a word years ago that just made me, it was an aha moment, and that was polymath. So I didn't know what a polymath was. And a polymath is someone who has many interests, but can actually do multiple things in disparate places. And so when I was in school, I heard very often, focus, Malaika. My first grade teacher used to come and sit on my desk because I would be staring out the window. I was a dreamer, right? I didn't know what to do with that. I had all these interests, and one had nothing to do with the other necessarily. It just made me happy. But society will tell us that we're supposed to focus and we're supposed to do a thing. And that's really difficult for some people. So if I had to say what my life and trajectory has been about, I am a facilitator of discovery. And I come from a family of teachers. I've been running from that for a really long time. Like, oh, not another teacher in the family. We have enough. But I can't help it. There isn't a job I have ever had across the different industries and different verticals where I was not teaching. So at a high level, I'm a facilitator of discovery. And I kind of like it. I'm going to own it. I'll walk in it for a while. I think that's it.
I recently was listening and watching your TEDx talk on Momentology, which was fantastic. I loved it. I wish I had heard this years and years ago in my growth journey. Can we talk about where this Momentology concept came from, how you came up with the method? What was happening? Let's talk about it.
I am a voracious note taker, voracious reader. I love words. I started reading when I was 18 months old. I was apparently that precocious child that my mother could not take into the grocery store because I would pull the cereal boxes and the things off because I wanted to read the labels. I've heard that I had stopped people with t-shirts on that had stuff on it so I could read it. They just had to humor me, and because this little toddler person was running around trying to read everything. So I've always loved words. There's something about communication and how humans speak to each other, understand each other. I didn't know that I was an anthropologist, but I was really interested in the world and how people thought about things. I had this giant book when I was about maybe 8 or 9 years old on Greek mythology. It was an opening to me into different ways people thought because I had the Greek mythology and then I had the Roman mythology. And if you know anything about mythology, they are the same characters, but they have different names. So I thought that was so interesting how the Romans called one thing and the Greek called it something else. And my grandmother thought that I was going to work for the UN when I grew up because I was so interested in people to the point where I started learning languages very early. I can now say thank you in over 50 languages because gratitude is my favorite human emotion. And I never want to meet anyone on the planet that I can't say thank you to in the most human centered, heart centered way. And I don't know any other way other than the language you heard in the womb. So that's always been my story. And as I was working and coming up in the corporate world, there were so many different parts and pieces of me. I didn't know if I was being fake when I wasn't the version of me that I was yesterday. I didn't know if I was trying too hard. It was really difficult. And I just started relying on the studies that I had done over the years. I had been looking at and listening to Earl Nightingale, Napoleon Hill, and others, and then comparing that to Aristotle and Plato and the works of Jesus. There's something about humanity that we've always been telling the tale throughout. And it doesn't matter what culture, what have you, you'll see similarities in universal truths. And so I'm a big studier of that. I love history. I love neuroscience. And so somehow those things all came together for me as I was trying to navigate my way through corporate. I was just trying to survive in a space and place where I often was the only one who looked like me. I was an overachiever. So I did lots of things that I never thought were good enough, but I wound up in rooms that other people maybe necessarily didn't have access to. And I wasn't really sure how to be in those rooms. So only thing I could be was me. That was my default. Like, you know what? This is me. And so to this day, I show up every single place exactly who I am because there's no other way to be. And it's not easy, but it's very, very simple.
Malaika, thank you. One thing that I'm hoping the majority of the listeners are women, mid-career, senior career, but also women who are reflecting on how do I bring my whole self and my authentic self to my life and my work. And when you were just describing how Momentology came together, one thing that comes up with the women when I'm working with them to think through what's next is that sometimes it feels very much like a puzzle where we all bring certain life experiences, expertise, skills, genius to the world. And when you were describing your background, it felt like with Momentology, the puzzle pieces came together. You bring so much to your work in your life, but Momentology brings together your expertise in so many interesting ways. Is that how you felt when it came together? Like things were snapping a bit?
It did. And I will say that there's stages and levels to everything, right? So it evolves just as I grow as a person. I believe that momentology and the methodology and the way that I think about it and the way that I articulate it to other people has grown over the years. When I did the TED Talk, so when you saw I had the picture of my daughter in there because it was a seminal period in my life. I had 5 boys, and then here comes a girl. I was used to boys, and you give them a haircut, let them go roll in the dirt or something. It's fine. But then here comes this little girl, and she's like, everything is pink and everything's frilly, and she's so. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, what am I supposed to do with this? Mm-hmm. And she was basically like, is autopilot. She was so ready for the world. She came here, I say, on a mission. She is the epitome of what momentology is. Her sense of urgency, her sense of self, her self-confidence from a very young age. When she was 6, she was very tall for her age for a little while. And this lady said to her, oh my goodness, how old are you? And she's saying she's 6. And she said, you're too tall. You can't possibly be 6. And she was like, I feel like every 6-year-old should be this height. She normalized whatever she is and how she presents, that's normal. And for her to have that level of acuity around who she is at 6, 7 years old, I was just like, okay, I am in so much trouble. But that's really what it's about. It's like, how can I be the best version? And we hear this all the time, right? The best version of you. But what does that actually look like? So the logo for the Momentous life, which is what I say you can live. A momentous life is a life of passion, of purpose, a life where the things you say and do actually matter and you feel that you're making an impact on the world. And my logo for Momentous life is a prism. And that's because I feel that depending on which way the light hits, but depending on where your internal light wants to come out, that's how you project onto the world. And so to your point, it's okay that you present or you act or you talk or you do something a little bit differently, as long as you have a central local, like you're in your source. I'm a very spiritual person, but I believe that God has placed the light inside of all of us, and how you project your light is just whether you're an engineer or whether you're a mathematician or whether you're an artist. More than one thing can be true at the same time.
You mentioned Momentology has evolved over time. When I was first learning about Momentology, you were talking about some principles around it and some strategies around awareness and gratitude. Is that still the foundation, or has it evolved over time?
Those are the primary pillars of Momentology, and they've always stayed the same. I would say there's a lot of things you can do, but there's only one way to be. And so we tend to look at other people as case studies. If you want to go out and be something, or you look at the Spanx lady, right? You look at Oprah or whomever it is, like people who have done either something in your lane or just accomplished great things. And we may try to emulate them. We can't, right? Everybody's journey is their own journey. What's for you is for you. So there are lots of things you can do and still be successful. There's only one way to be. And that's where awareness, gratitude, and expectancy comes in. I found out through working in the development of Momentology that things come to me in threes. Momentology is a series of three. Lots of the principles are in threes. And when I think about what they mean and how to articulate them, they also want to break it down into threes. So for example, awareness, there are three states of awareness. There is self-awareness, there is situational awareness, and then there's global awareness. And so it's really a vision of how are you seeing things right now? Are you self-aware? What does your emotional intelligence look like? How are you regulated? Are you regulated? So all the work that I do is trauma informed, and I make sure that as we are looking at these parts and pieces, this is not just a business tool. Yes, we can use it for business and leadership, but it really is a mirror to yourself. So awareness starts off with, what do I know about me? And then I can help my clients to figure out, because I've gotten clients that say, I don't know. And I don't know is a default. We're like, it's too much noise. We're overstimulated. I can't really think about me, especially for women of color. Black women are doing all the things for all the people, all the time, everywhere. So there isn't time, we think, to focus on what we want and who we are. And so Momentology helps you to find those moments, no pun intended, or maybe pun intended, find those moments of clarity of who you are and what you actually want. And it takes some honesty that we're so used to throwing ourselves aside and say, oh, well, it doesn't really matter. It does matter. And then Momentology will show you how to bring that out.
I'm curious about awareness. There's a couple of concepts I'd love to get your take on. So the self-awareness, you're right. Many struggle to take the time and reflect and really understand themselves. When you're working with your clients and coaching them, one thing that I've been doing with women that I've been working with who are focusing on their career and thinking about that, we do discuss your career is just one part of who you are. So understanding your whole broader self. One method we've been using to understand ourselves is going back in time and thinking about our career in life and what's lit us up and what brings our light out. When you're helping clients be self-aware in the present, are there strategies you give them?
Two things I think are really important about that. One, back to what I said about the trauma-informed journey. Sometimes we don't look because we don't want to. We don't want to see it. We don't want to go back because maybe back there was something that I didn't like about myself. Back there was something that happened that I'm ashamed of or I'm upset with. I shouldn't have taken this course. I shouldn't have married this person. I shouldn't, right? And so we start blaming ourselves for our current situation by saying, oh, well, I'm in this because of this. It's almost like, well, I deserve it. I'll just figure it out. So what I say is absolutely what we do today affects tomorrow. But if you're still here, it's not fatal. You can always do something. If you're thinking about it, that means you can do something about it. And so to your first part of your question, in terms of going back, are you familiar with NLP coaching? Okay, so there's a practice that I've learned along the way. NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. It is a coaching technique, and I am not an NLP practitioner, but I have used some of the approaches, and it's really, really good in helping people to change negative behaviors and patterns. There's an NLP practice where you float over your timeline. And I really, really love it because it gives you the opportunity to see yourself from outside of yourself. And so, for example, if you're going to say, I'm going to go back in time and think through, and this was very impactful for me, going back over time, why do I think the way I do? Some things happened somewhere that made me feel a certain way. And a lot of times we can't put our finger on it. We just know that we feel that way. So I'll give you an example for me. For a long time, I told myself that I was not good at math. I still joke about it today because it's like not my favorite subject. In grad school, statistics was the bane of my existence. And even though some statisticians will say it's not math, I'm like, whatever, close enough. So I always had this fear of math going way back to grade school. And I don't know why. We just started excelling things. I was great in English and history. Math wasn't one of those things. But it got to the point as an adult in my career, I would shy away from opportunities and roles in which I had a financial responsibility, or I felt someone would be looking at me to look at something about the company's finances, like, oh, no, not me. I'm not good at math. And then one day I was talking to one of the controllers on a project that I was working on, and she said, you're my favorite program manager. And she's like, because you just get it. And I'm talking to the controller about numbers and math. I'm like, I'm sorry, what do I get? It did not occur to me that I was doing what I said that I couldn't do. And I had responsibility of P&L over millions of dollars. Like, you can't really do that unless you have some level of understanding. But the story I was telling myself is that I wasn't good at math. I can't do math. Meanwhile, I was running multi-million-dollar projects. Something is not matching. I did the NLP exercise where I went back over my timeline. And what happens is you kind of float above. You see yourself in the things that you do, you in college, you at your first job. And you just start to think about the times and spaces where you felt exactly as you feel right now, whatever the scarcity or this angst is. And you pinpoint times along your own personal timeline where that has happened, but you do it as if you're floating above it. So you're not walking through the trauma of whatever you were experiencing at the time. And so when I did that exercise, I found a long time ago, some kind of traumatic things I went through made me feel less than, and it carried and it stuck with me. So being able to pinpoint that and see it for what it was, I was able to start to do the inside work. And I'm going to tell you right now, if it doesn't hurt, if it's not messy, you probably ain't doing it right.
Well, Malaika, you were mentioning NLP, and it's so interesting. Back to connecting the dots. I've recently talked to Ala Weinberg, who's also from the human factors psychology work and sharing with me about trauma-informed practices. And she said, just like you, NLP is where it's at. I have another question for you, talking about awareness and self-awareness, situational awareness, global awareness. One thing that comes up a lot when people are seeking out abundance, one of the recommendations they'll get is the more you can be thinking about how you help others, the more abundance that may come to you. Is that part of the philosophy behind Momentology?
Yeah, so that's the second pillar. The second state of being is gratitude. And so I often say you'll never have more what you want until you want what you already have. And essentially, we want lots of things. And there's nothing wrong with desiring things. There's nothing wrong with wanting to increase your wealth, increase your experiences that you have in life. But when you don't realize and you don't take inventory of what you currently are already sitting on, what is it that you already have that you could be thankful for? You're missing out. There's a story that I heard about an old man who's sitting at a crossroad, and he's sitting on a box, and a traveler comes by, and the man is begging for money. And he asks the traveler for some money, and he says, what's that you're sitting on? He's like, oh, it's a box. It's been sitting on it for years. He said, well, what's in the box? And the old guy goes, I don't know what's in the box. And are you going to give me some money or not? And he's just like, but what's in the box? I don't know what's in the box. And he's getting ornery. He doesn't even want to talk about it. Just give me, I need money. I'm starving. Can you give me some money, some food? And then the guy said, I want to know what's in the box. So the old man begrudgingly gets up off the box, and he opens up the box, and there's a treasure inside. There's all this gold and money. So for years and years and years, this old man has been sitting on a treasure begging for money and food. We often look externally for our rewards when we have it right within us. That goes for institutions, organizations, and people. where you want to go and buy yourself out of a problem as an organization, for example. You want to go buy yourself out of a problem where you actually have the human capital right there that you've not tapped into. As an individual, you think that I need to go get this certification and get this degree, and it's nothing wrong with any of the things. I'm a PhD student, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with education. However, what do you already have? What can you already do? What should you be thankful and use? Is finding utility in it and using it and leveraging it for whatever it is that you want to do.
Can I give you a real world challenge? No, I'll refer to it more as an opportunity, not a challenge. Being grateful for the opportunities. The tech world is a bit messy right now. And a lot of the women I'm working with, I mentioned for mid-career, senior career, a lot of them are from tech. That's the community I've been part of for 20 plus years. And given the messiness, a lot of the women are trying to figure out what's next and scared and worried that what they've been doing for 20 years is not what their future will be. And to your point, I'm wondering with that real world application, it's not just women, it's a lot of folks are trying to figure out what's next. It's about looking inside versus having the exact right resume, perhaps. Those people in that circumstance where they're scared and they're feeling scarcity and they know they have a skill set, but they don't see where it fits in the tech world anymore. How can they apply the principles of Momentology to find that way forward?
One of the things I've worked with clients on, and I started with me, was who are you when nobody's looking? So often there's a mask that we wear and different personalities, and you're worried about who you should be in different situations. But somebody might have told you in college that you were great at math and you should be an accountant. And then you decided, I don't really know what I like, so I'm going to go for it. And now you're miserable. You've been in it for 20 years and you can do it. It's something you're good at, but it's not something that you love. But yet you feel guilty for wanting to change because I've been doing it so long. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. It matters what you do right now in this moment. Hence momentology, the study of the moment and the practice of operating in service of your greatest good is looking at what you have right now, no matter what you did 20 years ago, no matter what you think you want to do, we'll get there. But right now, what can you do and how should you be in order to capitalize on that thing? Biggest pieces is fear, right? Fear rules us. And so our lizard brain, that caveman brain will say, this thing is coming to me and it's dangerous and I'm afraid. But what we can be thinking about is how do I take what's presented to me right now and make the best of it? If there's a Japanese philosophy called Ikigai, Ikigai, it's one of my favorite. I love Japanese philosophy. It's really your purpose for being, I believe it's the translation, your reason for life. What is it that keeps you busy? And it's a Venn diagram of what you love, what you can be paid for, what the world needs, and what you're good at. And so in the center of that is what is the Ikigai, like the overlapping of all those things. Now, I think of it a little bit differently, even though I love Ikigai, I think of it a little bit differently. I don't think that we should be looking for that nexus of all the things. I think we should be filling our lives with the different pillars. So I should fill my life with things that make me happy, with something that I'm really good at. I should fill my life with things that pay me very well. I should do things with things that I love. So it's not that you're going to find that one job that you love, it pays you really well, and it's impacting the world, right? There may be that unicorn out there, but I think we fall down because we're desperately seeking that one source where everything makes sense all the time. And it just likely does not exist. And it's okay. So if you're at a job that pays you well and you love it, but it's not necessarily a social good organization, what's stopping you from donating your time? What's stopping you from feeding that part of you that wants to do good for the world? You don't have to do it at work, right? Vice versa. If you work at a nonprofit and you're doing this wonderful thing and you're really good and you love it, but it's not really paying well, there are other skill sets that you have. There are things you can do. Maybe you're a speaker. Maybe you can do other things that could fill your need for that financial piece. So you don't always have to be in one place getting all of that to have your ikigai. I believe your reason for being showed up in those different verticals.
There's a theme coming up, and I'm curious whether you would think this is putting up walls that don't have to be there, where I've been talking with folks where They found what they're great at. They found something they're really passionate about, that they love, that the world needs. One of the pieces of fear that prevents people from living their authentic life and shining their light is that financial piece. People are saying, yeah, sure, I'd love to do this. My vision's great. I don't know how to monetize it. What do you tell people?
So that is a non-trivial thing. Right? We need to uncover that, because that is a decision maker. It's a game stopper for some people. I can't do that. There's no money in it. I had a client one time. She was a PhD, chemical engineering, like layered on top of layers of very heady type of work that she did. She's an attorney, a medical sciences attorney, very, very heady kind of space. And as we worked together, I realized that there was such a fun side to her, and she was keeping it all buttoned up because she had this role as this medical attorney. And I'm just like, okay, but you're still a person. What is it that you like to do? And she was like, you're going to laugh. When I was in college, I loved stand up. And I knew it. I freaking knew it, because she was naturally funny. She had this dry wit that I very much appreciate, because I come from a family of very smart ass people. So I was like, well, what about that? How are you nurturing that? And she was like, are you kidding me? I'm not. It's just like, it's just something I like to do when I was in college. And I'm like, okay. And I said, well, what else? And we just started talking like, what is it that makes you happy? And it was the first time I asked her that was so hard. I mean, literally like pulling teeth. She couldn't think of nothing. All she had was complaints. She couldn't find a thing that made her happy. And so I had to rephrase it. What made you happy? So nothing is making you happy right now. What made you happy? So she went to the comedy. She loves to laugh. She just likes things that are lighthearted. She went to art. She used to like to paint, and she hadn't done it in 20 years or something. My challenge to her was to buy a paintbrush. So she went out and bought art supplies, and she very reluctantly started painting. And the next thing I know, she said she had an easel, and then she had her this and she had her that, and it grew, and she wasn't getting paid for it. But something interesting happened. She got a bonus at work. She had been complaining, and then here's this bonus. And I told her that there is a correlation between the happiness that you feel by being your best self and the way that you show up at work, that other people then can see that light was coming out. And it doesn't have to be at work. You want painting at work. But what happens is you opened up the aperture on who you are and what you can be, and it started to change things. So that's just an indication that there are things that we have, that pieces of who we already are, that we can tap into. And it may not directly right away, because, you know, we have instant gratification syndrome, right? Like, they may not right now be something monetary, but there are lots of ways that we can find to turn on something that would fit that financial aspect. Doing the work, if it's not messy, you're probably not doing it right. Like, we want the easy answer. We don't want anything that actually has me having to do any work, having to dig a little deeper. I don't want to dig. I just will give me the good stuff. I don't want to dig. And unfortunately or fortunately, it just doesn't work that way. So a lot of times I find that, like, even working with clients or bringing people on, if someone has a destination or goal, you can't, as a coach, start off with telling them that you don't really want to do X. Because they're like, no, I told you, this is what I want. I want this thing. And the thing is the thing that's going to make me happy. And what I realized over time is that once you learn to love the journey, you become the destination. It's no longer about the thing that you want, because guess what? Things change, goals change. It's what should stay the same is the person and the energy that comes from you. If you learn to delve into the most positive version, positive energy of you, no matter what happens, what comes of that will be the good thing. And that it may not be the thing you started off with, but you'll love it all the same, because it's a natural outpouring of what you love. And I've learned to lean unapologetically into my joy and genius. And that's what I help my clients do, because as humans, when we're productive and useful, that's our genius. When we're happy, that's when we do the best work.
I definitely have to have you back for another conversation, because I have so many topics swirling in my head. We talked about awareness and the components surrounding that. You also spoke to, with Momentology, the principle of gratitude and expectancy. Gratitude. we talk about this, and in a messy time, we all know we should focus on gratitude. What is one thing you suggest people do to feel that abundance and gratitude? I can feel it radiating from you, your level of gratitude. What would you tell people to do if they would like to cultivate gratitude?
First is stop complaining.
That's really, really hard.
It is. Listen, most things I say, my caveat is it's very simple. It's just not easy. So I read a book a long time ago. I think it was called Stop Complaining. The author recommended putting a rubber band on your arm, and every time you go to complain, snap it. We don't realize how many times a day we actually complain. So many of us think that we're grateful. I thought I was grateful. I'm grateful for the home I live in, for my health and so forth. So you think that that's it. I believe in radical gratitude. I believe in being thankful for the things you cannot see. Once you start to practice gratitude more and more, and in different places, you start to see how you can be grateful, because it's very natural to just say, what are the things you're grateful for? And lots of people say, I have clean water, my kids are healthy. Some of these very top level things, it's easy to see. What about the fact that you can see? That's the fact that you can talk, the fact that you can hear, your heart is beating correctly. Find the things that you wouldn't normally say you're grateful for. Every morning before I get out of bed, I do what I call gratituding. It's my act of, before I face the day, I run out the things that I'm grateful for until I just can't think of anything. And then I get out of bed. What that does for me is to help me realize that whatever I'm about to walk into, whatever things are coming my way in that day, look at how much I actually already have. I've already won the day before I started the day. And yes, bad things can happen even on the day that you do all this gratitude. And yes, things can go wrong. But the point is that you are more likely higher up than you think you are. The score is not quite as bad as you think it is. That awareness about yourself and about your situation, the next level is situational awareness. That third level is global awareness. There are people around the world that are suffering tremendously, and you getting up and getting in your car and driving to work. You're not a person who's struggling with where you're going to lay your head at night. So that's something that you can be grateful for. I guarantee you that I can sit with anyone for 15 minutes and show them lots of things that they have to be grateful for should they choose to embrace it.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask, expectancy.
So it gets harder and harder.
Great. I'm still having struggles with awareness and self-awareness. Is it a ladder of work? So when you're working with clients, there's awareness, gratitude, expectancy, and it gets harder and harder over time. Are you working on all of these aspects with them at once, or is it sort of this ladder of growth you have with your clients?
It's a little of both, because it's kind of like when you see a movie and it's a great movie, you recommend the movie, and then you go back and watch it the second or third time because you loved it so much, and you're watching it with someone else and you see something you didn't see. You're like, oh, I never noticed that. And you do it again and you do it again. My daughter and I were watching some movie the other day, and it was so funny because we have seen this movie countless times. And she's like, I can't believe I never saw that. Because you're focused on the thing, especially you've already seen it, because you know what parts you like. So you're waiting for that part. So you might be missing some things. It's the same thing in life. And as we go through our journey, there are things that we're focusing on. So we're missing things. And when we change our focus, other things come into view. And so that happens throughout when I'm working with people in organizations around what it is that they're noticing. Like I said, I am a note taker. I love journaling. So I have lots of journals. Not everybody likes to journal. It's okay if you don't like to journal. I had one client and she's like, I know you're going to say, write these things down, but I hate writing. I can't stand it. So I asked her to take a picture of herself, take a selfie. And she was like, why would I be taking? I said, take a selfie. And your selfie, now you're a photojournalist, because that selfie, you can write a few words, few notes on how you were feeling when you took that picture. That will give you an indication who you were. You know, you ever see a picture of somebody or a picture of yourself and you're like, oh, that was such a bad day. You remember everything about it just by going back to that moment in time. So if you are able to be self-aware, yes, it's not easy, but it gets easier. So when I said that we're talking about things getting harder, strangely enough, it's harder, but it's easier. So let me explain that a little bit. Awareness, gratitude, and expectancy. Awareness is the first level, and you're getting self-aware. You're noticing things about you and others and where you want to be in the world. Gratitude, you're being thankful that you have the opportunity to use your knowledge, your know-how, the things that you love. You're grateful for your family, that you can actually spend time with them, all these things. And expectance, this is actually the hardest part for us because humans hate accountability. We hate to take ownership of things. It's my boss's fault. It's my husband's fault. It's the kid's fault. It's somebody else did it to me. And in it, expectancy is positive expectancy. It's really difficult because you have to look at a situation, that's the awareness, find the good, that's the gratitude, and then expect that it will work the way it needs to. That's the hard piece. But you will find once you're able to flex that superpower of, I always say it is what it is. And some people take that as a bad thing, like I don't care. It's not that I don't care. It's that there are things that you can't change. The only thing that you can change is who and how you react to things. Bad things happen. How are you reacting to it? What are you doing with that information? Things that happen, I say, are all the time. And it may be the intersection of my technical and my design thinking, but it's just data. It's just information. What you do with that information will determine your trajectory or where you go from here. It's not the thing. It's what you do with the thing.
With expectancy, I'm finding, and I'm wondering if this happens for your clients, with maturity and age, I'm getting a little better because I have a long enough trajectory in my life now where I've seen periods that at the time I just was like, this is the worst possible outcome. But then 5, 10 years later down your path, you can go, aha, thank goodness that happened because it led to this, 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 and this. And now, as a 50-year-old woman, when there's downsides, I have the track record to go back to. It's a little easier. It doesn't mean it's easy.
We're humans, and this is the role that we have. Like, things are just not easy. But something I want to pick up on what you just said, you have the ability to look at something over a period of time, over a trajectory. Where it gets good is when you can do that without having that experience. For example, if you are able to not see how, because what you just said is something's happening, and then over time, I realized that it wasn't that bad because you know how it turned out. So what do you do when you don't know how it's going to turn out? And that's where expectancy and positive expectancy come from, because you let go of the how it's going to be okay and you lean into that it's going to be okay, right? So you don't know how it's going to work out, but you just know that this will happen in the most beneficial way for me. I heard someone say on LinkedIn a little while ago, she was going for some sort of pitch contest and she missed it first year, she missed the second year, she missed it the third year. And then when she won the pitch contest, she's like, it finally worked. What I was doing was working. And one of the judges, I think, told her, everything works. It either works for you or works on you. So whatever she was going through where she wasn't ready, it was working. It was working on her. It was an aspect that was sort of hidden that she couldn't quite see until she saw the tangible, I've won this prize, right? But it was always working. And so that's what happens with expectancy. Only you can determine what sort of day you're going to have. So if you get a flat tire on your way to work, you can let that ruin your day. Or you can say, I'm going to have a good day anyway. You can pull out your notepad, start taking notes. You can listen to a podcast while you're waiting for the Uber, whatever. You determine what sort of day you have. You determine what sort of person you are. And not letting circumstances dictate your character is the highest level you can possibly get to, where it doesn't matter how. You don't know how it's going to work out yet, but you just know that whatever comes, I'm going to make something good out of it. And people who are able to do that find that their stress levels decrease, that they're psychologically and physically are just healthier because they're not hooked into an expectancy of something horrible happening. They know things are going to happen. It's going to be up, it's going to be down, but whatever happens, I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to work through it.
Okay, so how do we do that? Here's what I want to share. I still am using the tactic of going back like, well, this was bad and this was bad, and here's how it ended up. I really, really, really am trying when there's a challenge or opportunity to be like, this is going to work out. But I have an inner voice in my head who will say, you are doomed. And that's where I'm struggling. So I go back to my old tactics of, no, I'm not doomed because it's been okay before. It's not coming naturally for me and many others. Like, how do we get to where you're at and where some of your clients are, where we don't always have to look back? How do we just say, yep, it's all going to be just fine? Or there's strategy?
Yeah. So it's not the Pollyanna, everything is sunshine and rainbows, because that's the cognitive dissonance is when the thing that you're thinking and the actions that you're seeing, they're just not matching up. And so that's what happens when you're trying to say, well, I know it's going to work out because it's the because that's messing with you, because you're trying to find that thing that you can stake your life on, that you can put the pole and say, see, here's the proof. And that's why it's hard, because I don't know if you can see it, but it's, I have faith it till you make it, not fake it. I don't fake anything. Fake it till you make it does not resonate with me, because I know what it means. I know it's supposed to mean like feel it till it comes. Faith it till you make it means I don't know how. What I do know is I will be okay. My children have never starved a day in their life. I've never starved a day in my life. Lots of things have happened to me, and we are okay. We will be okay. Okay looks differently, right? It's not all Pollyanna. Sometimes okay is you can breathe. Sometimes okay is you have a good place to lay your head. Sometimes okay is that you don't have that tension in your shoulders 24 hours a day and you can actually relax. Finding what is your version of okay for this moment and realizing that it's temporary. And that's truly what Momentology is about. Everything in life is temporary, the good and the bad. If it's great, enjoy it, it'll pass. If it's horrible, it's okay, walk through it, it will pass. Nothing stays the same all the time, things change. And so your ability to weather the changes with a level of steadiness that says, whatever the thing is, wherever we're going, I'm good. I'll be good. And even when things are not great, knowing that they will get better. And that is the very hard part. But once you start to do it one time, you can then go back to, there's nothing wrong with looking at times where you've done something well. You can look at like, oh yeah, I thought this was going to be the end, and it didn't. Much like surviving teenagehood. Everything seems traumatic and it's going to be the end of the world, and this dress is not perfect, so no one will love me ever again in life. It passes. And once you get past it, you see, oh, that wasn't that bad. And it strengthens the muscle for your ability to be resilient and to take on new things.
Malaika, thank you. Thank you. If people would like to learn more and find you, where can my listeners find you?
I am at momentologymedia.com. That's my website. I also have momentologymedia.com/mantra, MANTRA. And that's what I was telling you, that I have a thing that I do in the morning. It starts off with gratitude, and then I do my affirmation set. So I'd love to offer that to your listeners. They can go in and listen to the affirmation. And if they like, they can learn how to create their own to set their day. Things are going to happen, but we'll get through it.
Malaika, thank you so much.
You're so welcome. This has been great.
Thank you. I so enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.